All right, hello and welcome to Mindset Mondays. This is episode 64 in an ongoing series of weekly live Facebook broadcasts. Hey, the concept of this is to give folks who have a growth mindset or those who'd like to develop one the opportunity to play with new ideas, new concepts, and try on new mindsets. So just like the ticker says across the screen, if you will take just a moment and share this, click share, and invite your friends, your colleagues, your community to this broadcast, a chance for them to join the conversation and play with new ideas. Would love to have their participation. So again, click share just beneath and invite your world to this. All right, so the quote we're playing with today is this. It's: man's task in life is to give birth to himself, to become what he potentially is. Okay, so yeah, those of you who know me know that I'm a fan of hyperbole, so I love the idea of making it so dramatic. Erich Fromm, as a sociologist and psychoanalyst and author, humanist philosopher, he also kind of liked the dramatic. So clearly I resonate with this quote. It reminds me back to in like episode 25, we played with the idea that the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. So this ties nicely to Erich Fromm's idea of our task in life is to give birth to ourselves, to become what we potentially are. It's quotes sort of missing the original quote, that idea that was attributed to Twain but wasn't really his, misses the idea that there's so much effort in giving birth to ourselves and launching ourselves into a new way of being, a new world. It's really almost as if we're emerging into this world with a new sense of self-definition. It's like being reborn into the light, into our new truth, into the new world that is. Give you an example. Look, we've all had the opportunity in our lives for different types of rebirth, right? So for me, I've been to school with the same group of folks all the way through the end of 6th grade. And I was surrounded by a very small population of folks who knew me as who I was. There was a chance to be reborn, reintroduced when I switched schools for junior high, for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. I was going to school with a whole new group. I got to show up as the person who I saw myself as. When you've gone to school with people from when you're this big, so often they know you for who you've been along the way, oftentimes who you were. It's hard to reinvent. And going to a completely new school for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, during that social individuation process, I got to be more of who I was becoming. And then again, for finishing up high school, 10th through 12th grade, another opportunity to completely be reborn or reimagined. And again, going to college, a chance to effectively start over in a new population. Each time I got to lean into who I was becoming. And so those were at a much smaller scale, right? Getting married changed my self-definition, got to be seen as my higher self and lean into who I was hoping to become. As a parent, that changed the self-identity again. And then at age 40, when I hit my breakthrough and shifted to becoming a coach, it was another opportunity to completely be reborn into the world. It was showing up in a completely different way. It was stepping into that new reality, stepping into that new essential presentation of who I am. Man's task in life is to give birth to himself, to become what he potentially is. the way to step into that new version, that new essence, that expanded version of me, that was a remarkable opportunity. And God, it felt like rebirth. It felt like, it felt like a cataclysmic shift. So much of who I was had to be let go of. So much of who I was going to become, I needed to step into that. That being reborn into my new, more authentic self. That was a chance to live into my potential, to live into a new way of serving, a new way of being of service. It was an opportunity to find a whole new level of magnificence for myself. And it changed the way I was in relationship with everyone. Look, I can't overstate enough how magnificent the opportunity to be reborn is. The opportunity, taking this out of a religious context, even within that, for those that believe in being born again, the idea that we can redefine ourselves, self-definition or definition through faith, and choose another expression of life. The opportunity for this week is to play with the idea of, wow, what's awaiting you on the other side of that rebirth? Tie this back to that quote. The other quote, there are two great days in a person's life, the day we are born and the day we discover why. Your opportunity is to discover why and give birth to yourself into that future, into that possibility. And no, it is never too late. If you have a pulse, you have time. I'm 54. Morgan Freeman's first role, his first breakout, was at age 57. And he went on to play God. The entire future was laid open for him in a completely different path by leaning into acting. People shift careers in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s all the time. If you have a pulse, you have time. It's one thing to ask what's waiting for you on the other side of rebirth. I think the other question to play with is, what the hell are you waiting for? As much as if you have, as I believe in, if you have a pulse, you have time. Okay, you have time. And why wait? What are you waiting for? If you could reinvent yourself, if you could give birth to a new, higher version, cleaner, fresher, more brilliant version of yourself, what would that be? What would you do with that self? What would you create from that self? And what the hell are you waiting for? The reason I created the Facebook group was to have these conversations, was to create a place in a private, no-sell, pitch-free Facebook group, to have these conversations, to play with the ideas of what would you create? Who would you be? What would be available to you on the other side of that rebirth? So it's come to facebook.com/group/Mindset Mondays and join in the conversation. Share, who would you be? What would you create? What would be available for you in your world, in the people that are part of your world, on the other side of your rebirth? Bill's watching live today, and I know Bill has done recently a lot of rebirth. And I also know that, like us, in 119 days, Bill and Connie are going to be empty nest as well. And whoa, what an opportunity for redefinition and rebirth and choosing a new chapter, not just extending this one. It's an opportunity to change how we show up in the world and how we play in the world and how we see ourselves in the world and how we're in relationship. You know, for me and Elaine, with 3 kids out of the house, we step into the fall in an entirely new footprint and a new opportunity to recraft and reshape and relaunch a relationship and how we want to live together and be in the world and move in the world. You know, launching our last child out of the house is also launching a next chapter for us. And we get to design that. We get to figure out what that looks like. We get to co-create that. What will you create on the other side of your next launch, your next rebirth, your next reimagining of yourself? The only limitations are the limits of your imagination and theoretically the laws of physics. What would you invent? What would you create? With whom would you create it? What do you want your world to look like, and who do you want to be in it? It's spring right now, and there is so much more energy coming from the earth and so much more power available. I feel the surge of growth and possibility. This is when it gets exciting. So I'll offer for this week, the question to play with is, what awaits you on the other side of your rebirth? So between now and next Monday, what mindset will you choose?